actually, for me, rainforest is one of the most delicate topics of the biomes because it is rapidly, as Christian said in his presentation, being cut down at a rate that is obviously not sustainable at all, and it's pretty much a topic of serious concern throughout the world, because if you look at maps of what existed before and what exists today, it's like a tragic difference. So obviously a rainforest by definition is a forest with a lot of rain. Since I introduced all the biomes with a definition, I will start with that one. Tropical rainforest, and this is just a map, can be found in 3 major geographical areas, and I'm listing them for you. Why? Because on the AP exam, you actually have to know location of rainforest, because again, it's such a big topic. So that's the only biome you're really responsible for knowing geography of. So try to always think of Central America, because that's what usually comes up. And there are the other 2, Africa and Indo-Malaysia. Climate of the rainforest. It's basically warm the majority of the year, and I put a graph there, and it rains all the time. They mentioned that there's periods of drought, and that's true. But do you think of a rainforest as a forest with rain? Very few people visit the rainforest and it's not raining. And it gets up to 262 centimeters of rainfall, 103 inches per year. And you see, even in, like they were mentioning, even in the times where there is less rainfall, climate-wise, which means long period weather, it's still raining, because you look at the graph. At least a minimum of 10 inches, or 10 centimeters, 6 inches. Sunlight doesn't penetrate the whole forest, and that's important because we're going to talk about the layers, but that's why you have so much diversity, because there's so many different types of habitats in one forest. You're going to see all the different variety of species. Here are the layers of the forest, and we're going to go over each layer and a little bit of information about plants and animals of each. So the top layer is the emergent layer, and in this layer, obviously sunlight penetrates. It's mostly trees, and the trees in this layer can grow up to 200 feet tall, which is quite large, and it's the most sunlit zone, and birds live in this zone. The second layer is the canopy. The third layer is the understory, and the fourth layer is the forest floor. And you have to know those layers in order, and then the characteristics of each layer. So emergent top, canopy second highest, and understory, and then forest floor. Facts about the canopy. This is the layer of the forest where most species diversity is concentrated. That's where the most food is. Obviously, if there's the most species there, there's going to be the most food. Sunlight penetrates that zone. It's not covered. But once you pass the canopy zone, because a canopy is just like an awning that you place over, that's what a canopy is. The remainder of the layers of the forest receive little sunlight. So the understory, you're going to have nocturnal animals. There's also going to be a lot of diversity of species, because species will travel to and from those layers, from the canopy down and back up. On the forest floor is very dark, very little sunlight, few plants, and a lot of mosses and ferns. Impressed that you nailed the soil of a rainforest, because rarely people do. You didn't really elaborate why the soil is poor, but the soil is poor because the species in the forest contain all the nutrients. That's where you get these vibrant colors. Like you mentioned how much color there is, because the species in the rainforest are full of nutrients. Why is the soil poor? And here's a little diagram for you. Since the rainforest floor is dark and moist, it's like decomposition heaven, right? It's the ideal conditions for decomposition. So when an animal or a plant falls to the ground and dies, it's decomposed within, and I don't have the time frame, but I think it's like seconds or minutes. It's some crazy rapid pace. You could leave a leaf there, and before you know it, okay, it's not minutes or seconds, but it's fast. The leaf will decompose, and all the organisms will suck the nutrients right back up. So it doesn't stay ever in the soil. So what's funny is that people are constantly cutting down the rainforest to try to farm. Yet it takes years before that land becomes farming land, because they don't have regeneration of land until after a while, where you leave the tree trunks to kind of decompose without all the exterior forest, and then you're going to see different changes of decomposition at a slower rate and maintaining in the soil. So when the biggest problem with the rainforest is obviously deforestation, and you see a big chunk of the rainforest being cut up there, and then you'll see that those remaining pieces of wood will eventually decompose without having all the, the climate changes as soon as you cut, so, or the weather, I should say. So why are we cutting these trees? And I just said that in the previous video. It is a big chunk for farming, although it takes a while to get to that point. Logging is my yellow part of the graph, and again, there you got agriculture again. And anybody know what subsistence farming is?
Yeah, where you just farm for yourself.
Good, wow. Good for you. Yes. It's farming for within your, short nuclear group of people, or for yourself. It's not really industrialized where you're farming for profit and to feed large amounts of people. The disappearing forest, and I'm just going to read over some facts. Oh, let me press. Oh, I did. Critical facts that I want you to be familiar with. So I think Christian did mention the oxygen, but shh, and I'm recording right close. Look at this. 121 prescription drugs sold worldwide come from plant-derived sources from the rainforest. And this is an even more interesting fact over here. Let me see if I find it. 20 of the 121 drugs, 1% of these have been, 1% of the forest has been tested. So, in other words, the U.S. National Cancer Institute has identified 3,000 plants that are active against cancer cells. 70% of these plants are found in the rainforest. So, unfortunately, at the present rate of deforestation, the tropical rainforests are expected to vanish in just 30 years. Here's a diagram of forest, or forests that used to occupy in the 50s compared to now, and look what it's going to look like in 2020. And here's a bar graph of rainforest throughout the world per acre. And I want to leave you with how much is being destructed. And I know you guys mentioned this in your presentations. Currently, 14 to 16 million acres are being destroyed every year. This is about 30 acres per minute. It's estimated that it's costing the world species extinction rate of 100 to 140 species per day, and 3.5%, 3 to 5% of the total world biodiversity pool every 10 years. And again, the rainforest is a home to most species. And if you look at my facts again, it actually tells you that more than half of the world's estimated 10 million species of plants and animals and insects live in the tropical rainforest. This is and 1/5 of the world's freshwater is in the Amazon basin. Also, they call the Amazon rainforest the lungs of our planet. It actually provides us with most of the oxygen on Earth. More than 20% of the world oxygen alone is produced in the Amazon rainforest. Besides species diversity, medicine abilities, and the oxygen we breathe, the rainforest provides us with 80% of our world's diet. Fruits, here's an example of some foods that are derived from the rainforest, including coffee. 3,000 fruits are found in the rainforest. So this fact here is one: medicine, diversity, food, and oxygen we breathe. Now I leave you with the thought: not only when you cut down the forest are you reducing the amount of oxygen that's produced, you're also increasing carbon dioxide, which will lead to more warming of our planet, which can lead to more release of these gases, and the positive feedback loop continues.